We use it every single day, right? To buy our coffee, pay rent, save up for the future. But have you ever really, truly stopped to ask, what is money? I mean, it's way more than just paper and metal coins. The idea of money is honestly one of the most powerful inventions in all of human history. So let's dive in and break down what it does, why it works, and how it all got started. Okay, let's start with a little thought experiment. Just imagine for a second a world with absolutely no money. No dollars, no pounds, no anything. You're a farmer and you've got a cow. But what you really, really want right now is a fresh loaf of bread. So, how do you make that trade happen? I mean, you can't just slice off a tiny corner of your cow for a single loaf of bread, right? It's a bit of a problem. And this exact scenario, this world without money, throws us headfirst into what economists call a barter economy. It's a system of direct exchange. And, while it sounds simple on the surface, it's actually incredibly clunky and inefficient. Yeah, this is the real friction of barter. It's just a huge logistical headache. First, you have to find someone who not only has the bread you want, but they also have to want your cow at the exact same time. It's what economists call the double coincidence of wants, and it's a huge hurdle. And it gets even worse. What if you're trying to trade something that goes bad, like fish or fruit? If your stuff spoils before you find a trade, well, that value is just gone. Poof. Money solves all of this. It just smooths everything out, creating an efficient system for trading, saving, and pricing everything. So to fix all of those problems with barter, humanity came up with this brilliant invention, money. And at its very core, money has three really specific, really important jobs that it was designed to do. The first and maybe the most important job is that money is a medium of exchange. Just think of it like a universal middleman that everyone agrees to accept. This one simple idea completely gets rid of that double coincidence of wants problem. All of a sudden, the baker doesn't have to want your cow. They just need to want money because they know for a fact they can take that money and get whatever they want later. Exactly. That bill in your wallet isn't valuable because of the special paper it's printed on. It's valuable because you and the coffee shop both agree and trust that it's the go-between for that delicious cup of coffee. It's all about trust. Second, money has to be a good store of value. This is huge. You need to be able to save it and trust that it's going to have purchasing power later on. This is a massive upgrade from a barter system. Remember a problem with the perishable goods? You can't really save up wealth if it's literally going to rot. But good money, it lasts. And this is precisely what you're doing when you put your money into a savings account. You're storing that value. You're trusting that it'll be there for you when you're ready to buy a car or a house or whatever it is down the road. And finally, the third big job. Money serves as a unit of account. This one's pretty cool. You can think of it as a universal yardstick for value. It gives us a common measuring stick that everybody understands, which basically makes the whole economic world make sense. I mean, can you imagine the chaos without it? You'd have to know the price of everything in terms of everything else. Is a car worth 3,000 chickens? Or maybe 50 cows? Or 1,000,000 apples? It's absurd. Money gives us one simple, single price tag for everything. So much easier. But here's the thing. Not just anything can be money. For something to do these three jobs really well, it needs to have certain qualities. And for centuries, humanity basically decided that the perfect candidates were precious metals, especially gold and silver. So why gold and silver? Well, they pretty much checked all the boxes. They were super durable, they didn't rust or decay, they were easy to divide so you could make change. They packed a ton of value into a pretty small, portable weight. And maybe most importantly, they were rare. You couldn't just, cook up a batch of gold in your basement, which meant its value stayed pretty stable. But obviously, we're not walking around with pouches of gold coins anymore. So how in the world did we get from money that had its own built-in value, what we call commodity money, to the paper bills and digital numbers that we use today? Well, it turns out that even gold's value really came down to a shared story, a collective belief. People accepted gold as money simply because they were confident that other people would also accept it from them. And that idea, that value comes from our shared trust, is the absolute foundation of our modern money. The cash in your wallet, it has no value on its own. It's what we call fiat money, and its value comes entirely from the faith we put in the government that issues it. So if our money is based on trust, then managing that money becomes unbelievably important. In today's economies, that massive job falls to institutions called central banks. Their whole purpose is to keep the financial system stable by controlling how much money is out there in circulation. And they do this using three main tools. First, you've got open market operations. You can think of this as the economy's gas pedal and brake. When they buy government bonds, they're pumping money into the system to speed things up. When they sell them, they're pulling money out to slow things down. The second tool is the official policy rate. That's the main interest rate that pretty much determines how cheap or expensive it is for everyone to borrow money. And finally, there are reserve requirements, which tell banks how much cash they have to keep locked up versus how much they're allowed to lend out. It is a constant, delicate balancing act to keep our economy running smoothly.
And all of this brings us to a really fascinating final question. We've gone from bartering cows to trusting in gold to believing in government paper, and now we just tap our phones. With the rise of digital transactions and cryptocurrencies, are we actually watching the next chapter in the story of money being written right now in real time? And whatever comes next, will it still have to do those three essential jobs? Be a medium of exchange, a store of value, and a unit of account. Now that is something to think about.